That was a cat. There's some, I don't know, orange cat that's living on my porch now. For some strange reason. Andre says it's a boy. Short hair, orange. He'd been hiding out in a cat house in there. He says he seems to be kind of like a kitten. So I don't know what that means. Anyway, as if I need another cat. Alright, so it's May 5th of 2025. There's Lady Jane. First thing I want to say is this is a disclaimer. I approached her. She did not approach me. I go in with eyes wide open. Okay? Nobody is influencing me to do something against my will. Alright? Just with the more than few interactions that I had with Lady Jane, with Mama Peter and Little Peter and kwagala, who is a little girl who's looking after her siblings because her mother died and she has no father. Despite everything, you know, honestly, I'm really nobody to be casting no stones here, okay? If you've been watching my videos and you've seen those sequins and you know I've been going on and on and on and on about fabric, oh, what the heck do you think I was sewing for? Well, dancers, strippers. So, if Lady Jane wants to talk the way she talks, to who she talks to, in the manner that she talks to them on her other channel, well, when I start sewing stripper costumes again, assuming that I can see, well, tit for tat, right? Live and let live. That's all I gotta say. So in the meantime, she's back out in the field. She went looking for Mama Peter, but she couldn't find Mama Peter. So we don't know where little Peter is. He's missing in action. And so is his other siblings. Right? But she did go back to the little girl with her siblings. And I don't know, people. The only thing I can say is this will probably be a long video. I'm gonna have a coffee here pretty soon. I'm just starting my day. I've been putting in long hours because of what that Maria, aka Ria, did to me. Okay? Now I did get into the bedroom, quote unquote. There's 3 rooms up here. There's my bedroom, which has been a storage room, which is now being turned into a pantry, basically. Slowly but surely. Right? And then there's the playroom that, you know, initially was Tisha's room, and then Uncle John moved in there. And then when he was medically kidnapped, I actually had a man rent that room for a few months. And then it sat empty, basically. And then when I got Andre back, I already had Andre. After that man moved out, because he was only there for about 3 months. And that was right after Uncle John was medically kidnapped. And I can't, you know, everything just financially just came to a screeching halt. And, you know, because I was left with all the bills, right? And rent and hydros and gas and blah, blah, blah. So he was Sierra's friend. And he was living in his car. So he rented the room for about 3 months. And then he moved on. And then after that, it just became the playroom. With basically Andre's stuff. All kids stuff. Homeschooling stuff. Just whatever, right? And then at one point, I was doing a little bit of food storage in there. So that's why we call it the playroom. Right? Because, you know, you go in there and it's a homeschool center. Okay? Which I'm now turning into a, for clothing. For women to come and look and see what clothing they want. Or if I put something online, I have a place to hang it until it sells, maybe. So That room is in transition. And then the bedroom, it used to be Shemai's room. And then when Andre was illegally apprehended and we were fighting in court, Shemai had to go downstairs and give up her room, which ultimately got her murdered. Because if she would have stayed in that room, she loved that room, she would have excelled in school, and all the shit that happened to us and to her wouldn't have happened. But because she had to go downstairs, because we needed to prove to the social workers that Andre had his own room, right? And Uncle John was with us, so he was in the other room. That room basically sat empty for 15 months while Shemai was downstairs dealing with the riffraff that was going on with Sierra. And Tisha was downstairs by that time because Uncle John had to come up because Auntie Joan went into long-term care and he couldn't be downstairs by himself because of his blindness and whatnot. So Shemai ended up forfeiting her room that basically sat empty for 15 months. And through that process, she met Julian. Well, she met Julian after Uncle John was medically kidnapped. 2016. She met Julian. Towards the end of 15. I don't know. Somewhere around that time. Anyway. So now the bedroom, quote unquote, has been piling up with fabric. Alright? And because it's really hot and stuffy in there, it is what it is, and just with Amari's circumstances, it is what it is, the way we sleep right now. To which that little Houdini baby is waiting for everybody to sleep so he can try and sneak off. So, right? A new milestone. Everybody's sleeping, let's go sneak off. As if Amari can get very far, but believe it or not, when he wants to get somewhere, he knows how to get there. So, that girl, what I'm trying to say is, she did go back into the bedroom because there was gaping holes in there. She walked off with bags. They're big carry bags. Big plastic carry bags of nothing but fabric. Oh, that bitch, man. I'll tell you. And one hole she didn't cover up. She just covered over it. Another one was wide open. I think she stole it's a little machine that pushes out steam at a high temperature to disinfect whatever you're steaming, all right? I bought it for like the living room, for the couch and everything, eh? I'm on the hunt for that. There's only one other place where it would be. If it's not there, then that means she took it. Because there was gaping holes on the bed. Not too many, but from what I can tell, but yeah. So and plus there was something in there in a different carry bag that had absolutely no reason to be in there outside of, it was probably on the top of my bunk bed. And when she raided the top of my bunk bed in my bedroom, she took that down, and then she went into the other room, into the bedroom where there was more fabric, easier to get to. And if I would have came and caught her, she would have been saying something stupid like, oh, you know, when I was in the bedroom helping you, blah, all right, we pulled this out and I brought it in here and blah, that's why I'm in here. Just like she brought those shrimp and put that box on the floor and then hid behind the door. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just going from spot to spot, looking for things that I know I have. I know it looks like I have a lot of stuff, but really, in comparison to everybody else in Canada and what they got, no, I don't. No. And the few things that I do have, the majority of them I need, right, for whatever reason, like my tools. Like, that's messed up. When you steal people's tools like that, it just, that's so messed up, people, you don't even know. But I went off and I bought a new, and yes, I used my credit card. And I went off and I bought a new screwdriver set. Very big set. Very expensive. And Mastercraft. Or Craftmaster. Mastercraft. Craftmaster. Anyway. one of the better brand names. Craftmaster, I think it's called. Right? I like those. And a chisel set. A couple of chisel sets. And a wood carving set. Because she walked off with all that shit. Alright. I might know where there's another chisel set, but I don't know. This girl is shady. So, I've been dealing with that crap, right? Now, we know I sent Lady Jane some money in March. She was going to do a follow-up video, and that was to just top off a bit of food for Mama Peter and her children, right? Or whatever. And for food. It was just basically for food for somebody that needed the food, right? And I didn't hear back. Finally, I went to her other web page. This one here. Oh, it's going to be a long, drawn-out day. This one right here. This camera doesn't, I don't know. This one. Nyathi? African Nyathi? Well, I went on there last night, and lo and behold, what did I find? The follow-up video that was posted 3 weeks ago, but I didn't get a notification. So, or if I did, I didn't notice it. Right? Because I don't always check these things. But, anyway, and it didn't come up on my main page in terms of suggested videos. So she uploaded it on April 12th. Yeah. And I watched it. And what we're going to do is, this time we're going to go through the video, listen to what she has to say, and then if I want to comment, I'm going to comment. But I'm going to do it in bits and batches, because I have to keep moving. Alright, I'm finishing up with food prep, okay? I had some miscellaneous items that needed to go into jars, that kind of crap. Obviously, I've been topping off with a few things, having to either rebuy, like ham and salmon, that kind of stuff. Freaking maple syrup. I haven't even gone down the road of maple sugar yet. I do want to get at least another 10 pounds at some point in the future, but not right now. And anyway, other few miscellaneous items, because, you know, I'm trying to get Andre to cook, right, at some point here more, eh? So they had, you know, the Clubhouse little packets of gravy mixes for, you know, or like beef stew, little starters, and that kind of stuff, right? 5 for $5. So I bought a whole whack of them. And I'm wiping them down, you know, just to get them ready to put away, right? So I've been really busy. I've been a contortionist. And my emotions have been like, you know, I'm like this, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, right? Because of theft, people. Like, this girl's got a lot of audacity, man. Yeah. It kind of changed my perspective on things. But at the end of the day, you know, anyway, okay, so let's start listening to this first. I need to go wash the pot and get the water boiling, because I need a coffee. Hold on. Okay, this is the bullshit I have to fucking listen to. Can you hear this crap? Look at this. Do you see what's going on? Fucking, these guys, they're going in through the alley again. Where's my finger? There it is. That's my finger, yeah. They're going up through the alley. They come up to the fucking front. Then we've got these guys over here banging away with their big ass freaking trucks going up and down. I'm telling you, this is a bloody war zone. And these buildings, they're building them all across the United States of America. They're building them all over fucking Canada. Are you talking to me? What's over there? Huh? What? What is over there? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Oh, fuck, man. I can't hear you. Is it an emergency or what?
She's telling me to go back to Africa.
No, you want... Who's telling you to go back to Africa? Can I put the camera on you?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's telling me to go back to Africa.
Who?
That girl.
What girl?
That girl over there.
Do you know her?
Girl. Yeah, native girl. She's telling me to go back to Africa.
Where are you from?
I'm from Africa.
What part?
I'm from Somalia.
Somalia?
Yeah, she's telling me to go back there.
Well, do you want to go back?
No, I want to live here. You know, there's a problem, but she's telling me to go back over there.
Can't you ignore her?
I ignore her, yeah.
Yeah, just tell her to buzz off.
I just ignore her.
Yeah, you go hang out.
Oh,
I'll talk to you again some other day.
Thank you.
Okay. Alrighty. He wants to stay. Look at this. This is a heat score. It's too green. I can't see it, but I can see it's bushy. I'm scared, people. I'm fucking scared. I'm scared to live in this fucking house because of stupid fucking buildings that are inferior right across the whole fucking continent. Yeah, it's on YouTube with TikTok rants. Everybody complaining about these buildings. They're pissy poor, put together, falling apart, Mickey Mouse crap. Look at this. Andre says they're blooming, but I can't see them, people. I can't see the green. Oh my God. I told Andre he needs to come. But you know what? My landlady, she likes to come in here and bury herself. She likes to get right up in the middle of it and get lost and pick raspberries and blueberries. So maybe I should leave it for her. Right? But yeah, no, this is bullshit. Do you hear this fucking bullshit? Like seriously, it's a war out here. Yeah, and nobody can afford these buildings, okay? As I'm being robbed left, right, and center from just... Hold on a minute. Okay, Lady Jane, we just gotta roll. Just gotta roll with these videos. I actually go next door every now and then. I'm the only neighbor that does. I'll hang out and have a beer with them. Only one, though, because if I drink more than one, I get inebriated. Because I don't drink, and I'm always, like, working and not eating enough, right? So, you know, by one beer, I'm like, and I get loud and I start preaching. The last time I was there was just a couple of weeks ago, after Rhea stole all my shit, and then told me that she was going to come back as if to prove a point. To come back and give me back the things that I gave her as to prove a point that she didn't steal anything from you, which is a bunch of crock, because you ain't gonna have some fucking thief come into your house and target just certain types of fabric, you know what I'm saying, and take just certain types of food. The tools, well, like I said, if you're a thief and you come across, she knew the tools were there because she was getting the garbage cans. She was getting the garbage bags. Yeah, I said, go get some garbage bags for the toys that I was giving her and stuff, right? And so she bent down and she seen them. That's why, right? And then, of course, because she's nosy and likes to poke her nose and everything, she opened up the hall closet, seen the food, mixed things around, probably took a few things for herself. Well, she did. And then got down to the bottom, and what she did is she pulled out, she moved the stuff that was in front of it, which was a few cans, and then I had my little jars and stuff, right? And she moved everything, and then she just jimmied out slowly the toolboxes, and then she stuck her hands in that one that had all the, you know, the socket nuts with the whatever, But she jimmied out the toolboxes with my files, chisels, just hammers, wherever. Between the two spots, she wiped me out. And now I'm buying fucking tools. I am. I don't care. Right? I want to do wood carving. I want to make wood walking sticks. Okay? I have a Dremel tool here. I have wood burning kit. I just don't have the time yet. Right? Because, you know, finishing up with food prep. What's new? Or just everything that I do in a day. Right? And I'd like to get Andre going on it. So this bitch ain't gonna rob me or Andre or anyone else of that opportunity. So I had to replace. So I started with the screwdrivers, obviously, because I need them when I get out in the yard, because I do plan on doing some shed repairs and that type of thing. And the chisels, well, you know, and the wood carving tools, well, that was a good place to start. So, you know, like some of this stuff I'll never be able to replace, but I will eventually replace pretty much all my tools. And those will be between my son and Andre, right? In terms of, Andre will have to learn how to look after tools now as I replace them. So, and as for the housing market, you can see what's going on. It's making people ruthless in so many ways. That board director, that Punjabi board director, stole my certificates. Right? Was just one big lump on a log that produced a big fat 0. But he thinks he's a fucking hero because he spoke on a Punjabi radio at one point as if he did anything good for the whole community, because he hasn't. So let's just remember that. And then we've got some bitch that attached herself to me for 9 years, basically. Yeah. And look what she did, right? And she was very specific about what she took, okay? No random thief is going to just go look for particular types of fabric, rifle through women's clothes, take particular types of women's clothing, and take particular types of food. And if I don't find this steamer, and of course I'm looking for other things as well, outright. I'm making a list. The list is getting longer and longer as I'm remembering what I have. Because again, it seems like a lot, but it's really not. Especially when you're living in a country that wants to bring you down to, you will never have another house like this. Get rid of your stuff. Forget about being happy, right? Just get the fuck out. Eventually. And then don't let the, door kick you in the ass when you leave. In other words, we don't care where you go or what happens to you, because we already know that you'll have nothing. So get used to the idea. And I gotta get my coffee. Hold on a minute. Okay. Another reason why Maria, that was supposed to be your last name, right? I'm gonna dox you, bitch. Sooner or later, I'll dox you. Anyway, maybe I'll get lucky and see your ass in court. That'd be great. And I'll get back some of my shit. That'd be even better. Oh, yeah. Anyway, as for my neighbors, I want back those sewing machines. I never gave her those sewing machines. She was just going to take them and see if they were going to work, and then we were going to decide. Well, I was going to decide, but we were going to discuss the options as to what I should do with them, because, there's always a part of me that wants to hang on to them, right? Because in my mind, I'm still sewing. The one in its case, heavy-duty Singer, I always thought maybe it might be good for leather because it's heavy-duty. I told her if she could get it running, obviously she could use it if she needed it, right? Because she was having problems with her sewing machine. But she has another one in a case, so, And then the other one, I'm pretty sure I have the bobbin case and the plate in my sewing room. And I told her I was going to look for it. either or. She said she was going to bring back the stuff that I gave her, in I guess including the easel, the little children's guitars, you know, the trunk. I didn't really give her very much, but when you come in and you rob from somebody and you take a fucking truckload, well, then yeah, it would be a lot. And, you know, she took the bigger, puffy plastic, carried their big carry bags, right? From on top, so that she could dig, right? Pull out, take whatever she wanted. I have to get up there, people, still, okay? And then she took one and she put it in the playroom to hide the gaps that she created in there by grabbing, we're talking a lot of fucking fabric here. Like, seriously, right? This high, you know, wide, that thick, fucking full of fabrics. She probably took about 3 or 4 of them from the bedroom. And then she brought in this other thing that came from my bedroom, that the only place I can think where it came from was on the top bunk. For 2 reasons: to cover up the gaping holes that she created as she was grabbing, because that's what she does. She fucking grabs. She just grabs the shit and runs off with it. She was piling it up outside or something. Somebody helped her. She had to have somebody help her. She called somebody. Somebody came. And she threw that in there along with everything else that, you know, there wasn't that much fabric that came out of the trunk. No, and there wasn't that much shit on top of it either. And that one bag in there that has that miscellaneous crap in there, no way, that was on top of my bed. Like, what kind of thief does that? To hide, because she, like, to try and hide what she did. If you notice, I'm taking you from spot to spot. She tried to either distract away from what she did or hide what she did, right? Like, you know, she jimmied out the tools from the bottom after she moved everything, and then when she was done, she took those little containers and she threw them inside to fill up the gaping fucking hole, and then she put all those cans, more cans, on the bottom. Yeah. To hide what she did. And then she scattered a few things to hide what she did. And there's shit missing. There's food missing. Yeah. So, and she was a board director to the foundation. Go figure. She's not the first board director to steal from the foundation, but she's the first one that ever did that. Never mind, did that to me in my lifetime. I've never had anyone do that to me in my lifetime. But, you know, look around you with this building, and people are not being able to afford housing, and, you know, it I don't know, it's just, I just feel like people that have the tendency to do those kind of things are just going to get worse. Yeah. And she's definitely connected to some kind of network. Oh, yeah. I don't think she's doing a solo in terms of she did it. She knew exactly what she was doing. It was well precisioned, you know. So, anyway, this young African guy over here, he wants to stay in Canada. But I kind of feel sorry for him, because there are lots of black people, whether they're from Jamaica, the Caribbeans, you know, Africa, coming to Canada and then finding out it's all cracked up to be, and they want to go back home to their you know, countries of origin, right, where life was more peaceful, maybe not as prosperous with the material things, but, you know, a stronger sense of family, community, just better quality living with types of foods that they eat, and, you know, the environment, I suppose, depending where they come from. And, you know, if they're coming in from a refugee camp, then obviously they don't want to go back, right? But if they're just coming in from wherever, and, you know, maybe the level of poverty is quite high, but people have adjusted where the quality of living is, I don't know, better than here. Because this is a Congo that I live in. If I'm not getting it from the freaking Punjabis, I'm getting it from white people. Eleanor Gilding, she was white. It's up for debate whether Rhea is white in terms of a full Caucasian. I'm wondering if she's got native heritage in her and she just doesn't talk about it. Just wondering. Not that it makes much difference, but actually it does when it comes to politics and getting away with things. Yeah. When it comes to getting away with shit. You'd be surprised. It's a two-tiered system out here when it comes to Canadians, regardless of their heritage, compared to Aboriginal people, because they have their own governance, their own Ministry of Children and Family Development and those types of things, right? Their own way of thinking and doing things. Yeah. Okay, so either or. I'm doing what I'm doing. Keep coming across these Kinder surprises. And, you know, just looking for things that I know I have that should be there. And some things I'm finding, some things I'm not. Right? And, I listen to this bullshit, trucks and banging and booming and digging and honking and beeping and grinding and front and back now. And it's going to be like that all summer long. Yeah. As I'm worried about my yard getting too green now. Literally, I'm worried about my yard getting too green now. My only salvation is my landlady likes to dig herself in the middle of the raspberry and blueberry plants when they're in full bloom and full of fruit. So maybe she'll protect me when the city comes by and says it's too green. And then her son will come and say, oh, that's your last chance. We warned you, get the fuck out now. Right? We want our $5,500 a month. Yeah, we're going to stuff this place full of sardines. Yeah. Get our money on. Get our money on. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think maybe that's why I'm talking about this stuff. Because it's all money oriented to one degree or another. The pillaging of my belongings. I mean, what better example, right? Right? The guy that had the bin got $2,000 out of me, right? Well, $1,900 I'm still paying for, right? And for what? To steal children's toys? Non-profit stuff? Wood that I need to do shed repairs with? I can't even plant fucking beans. Well, I could. I haven't yet. I tell Andre just go throw them in there and water them and they're either going to grow or they're not. But as if I got time to go outside and be planting beans, I really should. At least some beans. But if they're the ones that want to crime, I don't got no poles for beans. No, I don't. And I'm not buying bean poles. Before I'd buy freaking bean poles, I'd buy screwdrivers. And I shouldn't have to buy screwdrivers, but for the life of me, I do now, for whatever strange reason. The only thing I can think good about it is I get a brand new set of screwdrivers today. Oh, I paid a pretty penny for it, too. Wait till you see them. I'll show them. And I'm not bragging. No, it has nothing to do with bragging. It's just, it's to show that you can't keep a good dog down. No. But when I watch videos like Lady Jane, no, it could still be a movie set. And these children are paid actors, perhaps. But when I go back to Gateway Place and I worked with the African families that came in from Sudan, who were Somali, just like that young man out there, I think he said Somali, right? A lot of Sudanese came and lived at Gateway Place with, you know, Muslim and Christian. They were either or. A lot of Muslims, the nannies, Somalis. And Darfur, Togo, places like that. Tanzania, Lebanon, yeah. And they'd come in as refugees, some of them from refugee camps, 100,000 deep, sitting under the hot sun, waiting for an escape, getting 1 jug of milk a week, of sour milk, to feed their families and a bit of rice. Right? And they'd come, and next thing you know it, they're in the courtyard. I'd work with the kids. What do you think that stuff that ended up in the bin was all about? Yeah. All about that. All those bangles and shit. Where do you think I took those bangles? Out in the courtyard with the children. Regardless of where they came from. Some were Canadian born, some were natives, some were Caucasian, some were Africans, some were freaking Arabic, right? You know what I'm saying? So, when I see these children, I highly doubt they're paid actors. And I do believe that what Lady Jane is showing us is genuine. But, you know, there's a fine line in there in terms of she can only show us so much. Because those children are at high risk to being exploited in terms of they're very vulnerable to have what they have robbed from them, just like what I had was robbed from me. And I'm an adult. Whether I'm blind or not, it doesn't matter. I'm an adult. I'm established, and I still get robbed. Okay? From one end to the other end, and everything else in the middle. Like when is it going to stop? I'm serious. Where, you know, she buys some food for the children, and she told me, you know, you have to be careful, right? Because, you know, the thieves come and they steal the food, even from children. And obviously not too many people are helping. I don't understand the politics around it. I really don't. But, I mean, the area itself is poor, so you can't get blood from a stone, right? You know, if people don't have to give, they don't have to give, right? And, you know, in every society, there's always going to be somebody that's deviant and is a taker, more like in terms of a thief, right? And doesn't care about who they hurt and how they hurt and why they hurt and or anything, right? They'll just take what they want. They don't even always take what they need. They just take what they want. This girl took what she wanted. She didn't need any of it, for crying out loud, people. She lives in freaking fucking Canada, collecting a welfare check with fucking federal baby bonuses and GSTs, and she gets child support more than likely. Like, you know what I'm saying? She's got enough money for her fake fucking hair and her little nails, and she can fly here and fly there, and, you know, whatever and whatever, right? You know, like, what she did was just straight up gluttony and being spiteful and jealous, and she's been taught to do this. Somebody taught her how to do this, and they're working with her to do this when the opportunity arises. Okay? Those children, they're sitting ducks. And so yeah, I reminded Andre last night when I was watching the video. I said, you need to fully understand, Andre, how good you got it. And really stop taking things for granted. Right? he doesn't want to really think about that stuff, right? But because I've worked with children that came from very, very impoverished environments within different parts of Africa, I understand their pain. Yeah. And I feel, I've felt their love and their gratitude, not their entitlement. They never came with an entitlement, and neither did the parents. Oh, maybe after a while, and they settled in and they had been in Canada for a while, and, there was more that maybe some of the parents could have done because they got caught up with the, oh, woe is me, I'm poor, and therefore I'm poor, so because I'm poor, you need to give to me before I give to you, right? They just get caught up in that, right? Right? And so, there was a few times where I felt that some of the parents could have helped me more with the foundation, being that they were already established in Canada and, they had that income to contribute towards the lunch program that I was building in within the courtyard in terms of feeding all the kids. I'd be feeding 40, 60 kids snack or lunch, right? And I'd make it up in my apartment, and then I'd take it across the street, and we'd all sit around and do our little craft and have our little snack, and I paid for that, people. Because I was working on the foundation securing the federal trademark names, right? But none of the parents, one parent gave me $1. She had 5 kids on welfare. So it's not like she didn't have the money to contribute a little more. She just got lost in the entitlement of being poor. Right? You get lost in the entitlement because you get trapped in it. What happens is you get trapped in it. And then once you get trapped in it, you get stuck. And it either consumes you, and there's going to have to be a second 2-part video, because we're going to start fresh with Lady Jane's video, because I wanted to do a walk and talk through it. I wanted to give it due justice, but I think I should talk about these things. I really do, because, it's important. So, yeah. You get stuck in a entitlement of being poor. And it's not that it's an entitlement. It's a reality. You just, it's like a slave. You learn to know your place. And then you live within your means. And you don't go outside the box. So therefore, you always kind of become dependent for others to help you. And then if you get the help, like you do in Canada, people start to take it for granted. Yeah, they start to take it for granted, right? So that when someone like me comes along, and I'm out in the courtyard, and I'm feeding their 5 kids snack, doing crafts or whatever with them, and then, the parent comes out, and I say, well, is there any way you can help contribute towards the program development? And they give me $1, even though they're getting welfare, federal child tax benefit, GST, yada yada yada, to which they could have afforded to give me more than just $1. But in their mind, they were poor. They were told that they were poor. They know they're going to remain poor. So they play the poor card, I guess you can say. Right? And I think that's just human nature. I don't even know why I'm talking about that, other than, I see these children that Lady Jane is showing us, and I feel their plight, because I've worked with children like that, literally. And They do. They come to you with love and they come to you with gratitude. Pure gratitude. They don't expect anything. Sure, they come, they stand, they wait, they hope, but they don't expect it, they don't demand it. They don't get angry if they don't get it. Right? Where in Canada, it's the opposite. All you have to do is look at Rhea. And look what's happening in the housing market with the homeowners and stuff. I don't want to single out my landlady because she's kind of like a victim herself. Right? Just like Rhea was taught to steal, my landlady was taught to be a freaking viper when it came to business within the housing market. And she just went along with everybody else. As the corruption got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, she's just one drop in a big bucket of drops, people. Right? And then once you get caught up in it, it just becomes part of you. Right? It's hard to change. Right? Just like, that woman who offered me $1 for doing all that stuff I used to do. And I'm like, $1? Okay, how far is $1 going to get me? But, well, didn't say anything. I took the $1. It's the fact, though, that she felt entitled to charity, I suppose. And she took it for granted that somebody was helping me when in fact nobody was helping me. I dug into my own pocket to help her. And she took that for granted. When they're coming in straight from a refugee camp, they're not even aware of that crap. Okay? They're just so glad that they have food and shelter. Right? You know what I mean? They're not even thinking about taking advantage of people. Okay? They're still overwhelmed when they get here from where they came from, many of them. Right? And they're very grateful to be here. Especially if you go out of your way and you participate with them and you do things with them. Like, I used to do a lot of projects with the kids, and the parents would wander out once in a while and hang out, or depending on what the project was, right? Sometimes I'd be out there with 40, 60 kids all by myself, basically, and my kids. That was it, 40 to 60 kids. That's why that bin ended up so fucking full with children's stuff. It's not a joke, right? As we got a Punjabi fucking board director sitting on his ass, stealing certificates because he wants to oppress people that are not like him so that he can be feeling a sense of control in terms of, owning the majority of the wealth, being in control, right? Telling people that you will own nothing. You will never have another house like this. You need to get rid of your stuff and get prepared to become homeless because you won't even be able to afford to rent these shoddy looking buildings that they're building that are falling apart within the first couple of 2, 3, 4 years after being built. And they're being built right across the fucking continent. And people are talking about it on the internet. They don't want to rent them because they're falling and freaking apart because they're poorly made with poor materials. I've been saying it for years and they're still building them because it's a sham. It's just a smokescreen to launder money. That's all it is, as certain groups of individuals die. Okay, that's the politics in Canada. The politics, and let's stay focused with what's going. Okay, so we got the little introduction there, right? So we've got Lady Jane sitting up in Africa, up by the Kampala area, which is a hustling, bustling freaking city. You would think that they would have charities there, to which I'm sure they do, right? But clearly, there's a disconnect, because what's happening in Kampala, from what I can tell, last time I checked, was you're getting a lot of foreigners coming in with money, right? Whether they're coming in from other African countries, right? And whether they're coming in building settlement camps. The government is building settlement camps for Somalians and those and Ethiopians, and right. So within Uganda, you got a settlement camp of nothing but Ethiopians, and then you've got another settlement camp. They don't call them refugee camps; they call them settlement camps, right? And then you've got one of just people from Sudan with the Somalians, and so on, right? And in with that comes people with money from America, the Arabic countries, right? And, of course, there's a building boom there, right? Well, the indigenous people of the country, the Ugandans, are being displaced, right? And because the government is fractured in regards to social services, what social services are there is minimal compared to what we have in Canada, okay? And I suppose the further you get out into the rural areas, right, into the, outskirts of a major city or a town, the further you get out, obviously the level of poverty increases if there's no means to sustain yourself in terms of like agriculture. A little 12-year-old girl is not growing a field of soybeans, so how can she possibly support herself outside of cooking up her little rice balls, which I still want to learn how to do and do a video on that one day. I do. But we'll cross that bridge on another day, right? So, if the parents die and nobody is in a position where they can afford to take in children because it's more mouths to feed, and that's nothing new under the sun. That's all over the world, people, right? And they have to choose between their family and trying to keep them alive versus bringing in the neighbor's kids because the neighbor died and the children are there by themselves, and then bringing them into the house with the rest of the family where now their children are in jeopardy of illness, right, because of malnutrition. I mean, that would be a very tough decision to make, but I suppose it's like that learned behavior. If one says no, it's easier for the other one to say no. And before you know it, everybody in the community is saying no, you're on your own. Wait for the government to come and help you. Right? It's the government's responsibility to help you. So whether that little girl gets money from the government or a food subsidy from the government, I don't think so. And even if she did, it would be very minimal. In terms of orphanages in Uganda, there are orphanages, but they're like any charity. They don't have enough resources. They don't have enough material. They don't get enough donations. The kids keep coming. The numbers get higher and higher. And, there's only so many kids that they can look after. Right? And, so maybe that's why those children are not, quote unquote, in an orphanage. Because there is no orphanage that has the capacity to house and feed them. Never mind the neighborhood, the people within the neighborhood. Right? So that's why they left there to wallow in squalor. Basically, because that's what's happening. They're wallowing in squalor, okay? With a 12-year-old trying to take on the responsibility of an adult with no support system, no safety nets, nothing. Lady Jane mentioned that they eat once a day at this point. Right? And because I did work with African families, I know that the older daughters do help in the house with child rearing. I've seen it. So if the mother dies, then just by default, it would just naturally go to that. I know that for a fact. So I don't doubt that the little girl has taken on the role of looking after her siblings. But you know, there's only so much you can do in a day. You know, frying rice balls doesn't make nearly enough money to look after a family, that's for sure. Right? And we really don't know what their living circumstances are at this point, because, you know, there's that fine line in terms of sometimes too much information could potentially be, you know, an issue for someone that might be watching the videos on Lady Jane's and want to go rob the children of their food. Yeah, we had a YouTuber watching my YouTube channel, and they knew that I had bolts of fabric up on my fucking bed, up on the wall, and they specifically targeted my house to come in and just, you know, scoop up on some fabric and, you know, and some little bit of food and, you know, just whatever, right? You know, people, no. That was Rhea. That was Rhea. But in a rural area, you know, even in this video, Lady Jane said something about she has to be careful because in where she's at, they believe in witchcraft, some people. No, voodoo. Voodoo. They practice voodoo in her neck of the woods, right? Not everybody, but some people do, right? And, you know, when you go off, and I know this for a fact too, when you go off and you're a community activist, you go out in the community and you connect with people and you help people and you give things to people and people migrate and they love you and you love them and, you know, right, you know, just whatever, right? Other people become jealous and spiteful and they want to be in control and they want to shut you down. They want to steal your fucking, I'm sorry, boo-boo certificates. They want to shut you down. Why would you want to shut me down? Why would a Punjabi want to shut me down as a board director? Outside of, as a collective group, they want to keep the wealth within themselves. They want to keep the power within themselves. They want to keep the authority within themselves as an ethnic group. They want to keep control of the economy within themselves, within their own ethnic group. Thus why the foundation never went anywhere. Because what I presented, was to distribute the wealth between the various ethnic groups so that everybody could rise and not just a few in terms of ethnicity when it came to wealth building as a collective group, right? Well, it's the same thing where Lady Jane lives. If she's giving food to children that everybody's basically been ignoring for whatever reason, because it happened with Mama Peter too, right? People were starting to cause a fight, cause trouble. And I know that's true because it happened with me when I was working with the kids at Gateway. It didn't matter if I was doing a park event, freaking working in the courtyard, right? I'd always get attacked. When I planted the community garden, there was issues with that. Even the cops went on the attack with me when I was doing the community garden. I had to fight for the community garden with the cops, of all people yet. To have that community garden up by the homeless shelter when I was working on that project. Yeah. And we got to keep it for the year, but after that, they bulldozed down everything, took out everything, and threw in a bunch of rocks and freaking lime. It scared everybody off. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, she now back on scene. She's back on the field, right? So people are looking, you know, they're getting jealous. They don't, because, you know, they don't have foresight. They just, I don't know, they're running on a primitive, emotional, they're not thinking, right? Because they're full of emotions. Their emotions are taking over versus their thinking. So, but that doesn't mean that we should ignore what's going on with these children, right? So anyway, I watched the video. In a nutshell, I did another $100 donation. How could I afford that? Well, I went into overdraft. Do I look like the gambler? Do I have a poker face? So I went into overdraft because I decided that this month I'll just pay less $100 on a bill to compensate for feeding children, considering what I still have and I'm doing, even though I've been robbed by Rhea of at least $8,000, people, of at least $8,000 of belongings on the inside of my house. Okay? And still counting in terms of that dollar amount. Yeah. Not to mention what happened with my landlord in January. And that was what, $10,500? So we're at $18,500 that I've lost since January 12th, when the city of Surrey told me to get rid of everything in my yard. As my landlady made sure it happened. And then Rhea decided to go on the attack on the inside, because I'm not supposed to have anything. And she got jealous that I did. And she's a thief. So if that's going to happen with me, you know, we got to be careful how we look after these kids in Africa. Can't give them too much at one time, because if you give them too much at one time, they'll probably get robbed, because the little girl won't be able to fend off the culprits. And she'll go sell her rice balls at the corner of the road, come back, and everything's gone. Right? But then on the other hand, you can't ignore their situation and pretend that it doesn't exist, or explain it away as a movie set. Oh yeah, Lady Jane's running a scam. Well, I wouldn't say so, because she didn't approach me, I approached her. Right? I wanted to know what happened to little Peter. Okay? And I already said, if you can't find little Peter and Mama Peter, then yeah, do what you got to do to whoever. Right? When this all started with Lady Jane, she brought 2 families to me, but I couldn't financially support 2 families. Technically, I couldn't even financially support 1 family in Africa, that is, right? But I went out of my way to try and, you know, I did home repairs for the children with Mama Peter and where she lived, with the roof and that kind of stuff. You know, bought Mama Peter some cookware so that she had a means to try and make some money to support herself, right? In a different kind of way where she was happy with it. Obviously, I bought food to help them over to the next cycle. When, in other words, when the food runs out, I kind of topped it off again, right? But after a while, it just got to be too much, because I'm not a government, right? You know, I'm sinking in debt as I'm being robbed. I mean, don't forget what my son and his wife did over the last couple of years with my stuff. All right? So, you know, what happened in January and just recently, I mean, that already started when, you know, when my son decided to start throwing out shit, right? But, so what I'm trying to say is, I know $100 isn't going to do much. And you're just feeding them. And I guess she did some school, and you see, already the pressure is there. I can, this little girl needs to go to school, and but you have to pay for school fees out there. So she took $50 of the $100 that I gave her and put it towards school fees, and $50 is still owing. So she only bought $50 worth of food. And what little food that she showed us on the video, which will be part 2 of this, okay? I'm going to upload this, and then we'll, okay, do a walk and talk, okay? Give, justice where justice is due, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, just acknowledge the seriousness of the situation, and, I don't know. And so anyway, a little bit of food, which for 3 children isn't very much. It's not going to go very far. No, it's not. So I think maybe that's why people are afraid to give. Because once you give, depending on what you're giving to, if it's at complete arm's length, like, to, some charity, a one-time donation, they come knocking on your door, do you want to make it, oh sure, blah, and they go and you never see them again, right? It's different when you're dealing with something like this, because those children are dependent on the food, right? It's almost like you have to make a commitment before you even start. But if you're not willing to make the commitment, then it's easy not to start. And if you don't start, nothing changes. Which is a travesty. Because if you're in a position where you can, even if it puts you back for a little while, or whatever you think you're losing from it, okay, right? But you're afraid of what might come and how much more you have to spend and lose if you want to consider it a loss, right? That would be enough to prevent you from making that first initial donation. In other words, when I did the $100 donation the first time in March with Lady Jane, I said, look, I'm not in a position to start up like I was before with Mama Peter, because it gets to be too much, right? Because, I got bills and whatnot, eh? But then on the other hand, I didn't want to not do anything, right? And then find excuses to not do anything, knowing what I know, okay? So I did the donation. She knows I don't want to become a bank where, monthly withdrawals are sent to Africa. I'm just saying. Because, if I was rich, it would be no problem, but I'm not rich. But then on the other hand, I think I know gratitude when I see it. And the one that stands out the most to me out of those 3 children is the youngest little girl. The little boy is sick. I think the sick child is the little boy who is young. And then the middle child, I think, is a little girl. And then we've got the 12-year-old who is looking severely depressed. But the thing about her, though, is she can switch up real fast, which kind of makes me suspicious, if I had any doubt. Right? Anybody can put on a sad face. Play that sympathy card. right? Not that the 12-year-old is playing a sympathy card, okay? Because I know what it's like looking after a disabled child and going through all the things that I'm an adult and I'm worn out. I couldn't imagine having to look after two small children as a 12-year-old, living by myself in the woods or wherever, right? Not woods, but, you know, right? With who knows, roaming outside at night, maybe wanting to hurt my family, like me and my siblings, or steal my little food that I have, or whatever. And, you know, no dad to protect me, no mom to protect me, no aunts or uncles or nobody to protect me, right? You know what I'm saying? So, right, that would definitely, after a while, build in perpetual depression, right? That would become permanent after a while. It would, you know, it's like that cortisol. It alters the brain, okay? It changes the brain chemistry, right? So, you know, I'm concerned about that. But then I'm not in a position to fork out $400 a month or whatever it is in order to put those children into school, because you know the younger ones are coming up and need to go into school soon as well, right? As well as feed them. And then, of course, you know, if they get sick, you got to pay for their medicines, and I'm just not in that position. So this is where you become hesitant, because you don't want to say no if they need something. Once you make the commitment to try and help, even if it's just a little bit. But we all know it's got to be more than just a little bit. So before people will make the commitment, just even with a little bit, the fear of it becoming perpetual and more and more and more and more is enough to prevent them from even doing that little bit. And for that, the children suffer. So where I'm at with it now is, well, I'm going to just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm getting these monkeys off my back, okay? When I get my new tools, I'll show them to you. There you go. More monkeys off my back, right? I'll tell my son what to look for in thrift stores and everything else to recoup some of the losses. If I feel like I need to buy files, which actually if I start wood carving and making my wood walking sticks, because I'll be able to see that should not be a problem. That should, you know, if I got time, I could probably do that, because not only that, but I can feel, right? I can feel things, right? Then I would need files. So if I don't have files by then, I'll buy files. I'm not worried about that. Okay, right? I've dealt with that problem with the loss of my tools. But what I'm trying to say is, so I crossed over with the $100 donation for food, whether for Mama Peter and her family or somebody else, to which in this situation Lady Jane would have went to this little girl, because she's already brought this little girl into the fray. I just wasn't in the position to look after two separate families in the manner that I was trying to be helpful, like I was with Mama Peter. I felt that we needed to deal with Mama Peter and her situation with the housing, being able to make an income, and, you know, building in that food security to establish that one household first within the community, even though everybody else around them is struggling. You have to, it's like being grounded. You have to ground the house in order for it to be able to be grounding over there and over there. You're right? You have to start somewhere with the first grounding. That's what Mama Peter was about. Was to ground her house where she became stable within the community, so that we could go to the next house and help ground that house, and then so on and so on, and build on the community, right? Well, I don't know what happened to Mama Peter, but I'd like to think eventually we'll find out. And I'd like to think that eventually little Peter will be back on the scene. But in the meantime, now we're with this other family, with the children. And I'm just not, I don't have a lot of resources. I just don't. But I can play my poker hand and contribute to the kitty an opportunity to at least, I don't know, provide a little bit of food and maybe a little bit of education, because that seems to be what it is at this point. For how long I can sustain it for, I don't know. I'm not worried about that at this point. I'm just trying to, get a handle on my emotions and, challenge my hesitancy to be vigilant, to be consistent. Like, can you budget in $100 a month? At least $100 a month to help feed this family quality food. And I'm like, well, yeah, you probably could if you really put your mind to it. Is it going to break the bank? No, not any more than what's been going on in my life, that's for sure, right? Is there a fear connected to it? What's the fear? These are the questions I ask myself, right? What would prevent you from doing it? This and this, right? What would prevent you from making that commitment? I'm not making the commitment because I can't guarantee, but I'm not stupid either, okay? Right? you know? Because if you're starting to feed them and then all of a sudden you just stop and they go right back to where they started from, I mean, what was the point? Right? So what would prevent you from making that commitment at $100 a month? Lady Jane could do a lot with $100 a month. She really could do a lot. She could stretch it out for them. Bring in better quality vegetables, right? Right? You know what I'm saying? She doesn't have to give it to them all at one time. She can do weekly visits with fresh food. And she can budget, right? So that there's no theft. If that's what Lady Jane figures is the best way to do it, because, give the children $100 worth of food and then it gets robbed, right? Because thieves don't care who they hurt. Obviously, they robbed from Amari, then they robbed from Andre. Did they not? So why wouldn't they rob from them? A thief is a thief is a thief is a thief. It's within their character. They have no morals. They have no ethics. They have no moral fucking compass, right? It's like they don't care, period. They don't think about the consequences of the leftovers of what they left behind after they did the damage. Okay. And I'm like, okay, if you do that, it's just a matter of juggling and wheeling and dealing and cutting back on things. And I mean, obviously, I got a lot of monkeys off my back. I don't need ham no more, bitch. Rhea. I don't need fucking tuna no more. Oh, no, not tuna. I'm sorry. Boo-boo, sockeye salmon, because I stocked up on it. I stocked up what you took away from my family, from my grandchildren. We sure in hell don't need no baker's chocolate. I even went off and bought 7 little things of freaking raisins just to compensate for the raisins that you stole. And I'll probably do it again within the next 6 months. Yeah. Just because, to get the monkey off my back. Yeah. But other than that, oh, I bought some little packets of gravy mixes, different kind, just cause, right? So that Andre can, get on with cooking and shit. I bought some little sidekick things that were on sale, those little sidekick things, just to get him to start using it. And then eventually I won't buy them and he'll be making his own once he realizes what they are. And I'll teach him how easy it is to make them versus buying them prepackaged. But for now, with everything so up in arms and whatever, they were on sale. I said, to hell with it. So, I'm preparing him to be able to make his meals downstairs so that he can learn. And then he's already thinking about looking in a cookbook. Yeah. So pretty soon I won't even be doing that. But I have to buy tools now. And they're expensive. But I can space that out. So it's not a big deal. Right? So what's stopping me from making, I don't want to say a commitment, because I'm not being held obligated to anything here. And I'm not conning myself, okay? I'm just not. Like I said, I have worked with African families, Arabic families. Lebanon is like Arabic, right? Almost, eh? At Gateway Place. And, those types of families, right? From those types of countries. And, I just know people. I know their pain from where they come from before they get here, if that makes sense. So I'm just trying to ease the pain. My problem is the well's going to run dry. And that pains me. Because the last thing I want to do is lead someone down the garden path, build them up, get them to the point where they're almost there, and then drop the ball, and then they fall. So this is where you convince yourself it's just better not to do anything. Because the last thing you want to do is hurt somebody, including yourself. Because then you'd be really mad at yourself, right? So who am I hurting more? Them? By not doing anything? Or me? For doing something? I don't know how to explain it. It's okay. Let's just say I do $100 a month for a year. Lady Jane can do her bi-weekly visit, once a week visit, or whatever. Or there's a granny in the neighborhood close by that helps to keep an eye on the younger children if the little girl is at school. So maybe give some of the money to the granny because she's looking after the children, right? You know what I'm saying? Something, right? You got to find some balance in there, right? Either or. I'm sure Lady Jane can wheel and deal with $100 once a month. Let's just say. And I mean, no obligation. If something happens. I can't do it. You see, that's the thing. Something could happen. I could die. I could have another bad boo-boo dream. I could have another bad boo-boo dream and wake up dead. And then what? The ball was dropped. And whatever we were building up all came to a crashing halt. That's my biggest fear. Not that I would die, but yeah, basically. Or the well went dry. Some other financial fucking crises happened. Who knows? Anything could happen in my life. Clearly you can see that. Right? And I just won't be able to give the money. And being that they're dependent on it to one degree or another, not because of being selfish, is because it's just a basic human need that we're dealing with here in terms of food security, anything else related to that. Just, right, building on a future, just having opportunity, even if it's just a little bit, or so what I'm trying to say is, if something was to prevent me from not doing $100 a month, if I could budget it in for a year, let's just say for a year, so that we could try and stabilize this family, just like I was trying to stabilize, help. I wasn't trying to, I was trying to help. Trying to help stabilize Mama Peter and her family through the various things that we were doing with Lady Jane. Well, it's the same thing. I'm trying to help stabilize this family with their basic needs to food, for sure. But for $100, that's all you could do. And I'm not in a position to do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I just don't have that income, disposable income. I just don't. But I might be able to squeeze in 100. It would be a slow climb up the mountain, but at least we'd know the kids would have food, and the little girl will probably go to school to one degree or another. What's it going to get her, I don't know, in terms of, I mean, I don't want to have to start taking on school fees and school uniform. I can't do these things. So that's what would prevent me from not trying. The fear of the things that you can't do would stop me from doing the things that I can do. Right? Do you see where I'm going with that one? I'm afraid to do $100. Okay? Knowing that $100 ideally should be at least once a month for the benefit of the children. Okay? We got a group, 3 of them. Right? Give it a fair shake. Budget it in for a year. Right? But if Lady Jane starts coming with more requests, oh, little so-and-so is sick and we needed medicine and now there's paid the medicine but we don't have money for food. Oh my God. I don't have any more money to give. Oh, so-and-so, something happened and we need money for this. We couldn't buy food. Yes, but I don't have the money. So now I'm beating myself up because I can't give more. So that will prevent me from giving the $100 a month. Because of the fear of the requests of having to give more when I'm not in a position to give more, because I'm already playing with a poker face by giving the 100 that I am giving. And so far it's 2. March, and now we're into May. So that's $200. That's $200 that I could put on a bill. I need that $200 to buy tools because my tools were robbed. Or whatever. But if I budget in 100, and you know Lady Jane is watching this video, I'm pretty sure. And she's not stupid, right? She's just gonna have to manage with the 100. And even then, I don't even know if I want to do $100 every month because of my circumstances, and I'm overwhelmed. And I'm already sticking my neck out by overspending on credit cards to compensate for all the thieves in my fucking neck of the woods and from what they take from me and my family. Yeah. Just so that I can level myself out and not go nuts with it as I'm facing homelessness, which you've seen. You hear them grinding and banging and booming all day. It'll be like this all week, Saturday too. It's like a war zone. Yeah. And then when people that you thought you knew and you thought that maybe you could actually trust them come and they do this kind of stupid shit to you and put you fucking $8,000 to $10,000 in the freaking hole. Yeah. As if I got money to just willy-nilly donate. Yeah, okay. But on the other hand, life is short, right? You can't save the world, right? And after you're gone, it's going to keep on turning, right? You know what I'm saying? Life will go on after you're gone. And if that's the only thing that prevents you from actually helping somebody because you're afraid of not being able to meet the expectations or whatever, or, you know, like you help for a year and then all of a sudden you up and you die and that help isn't there anymore for those people that you were helping. And, you know, they fall off to the wayside because they just weren't strong enough to stand on their own 2 feet just as of yet. You don't have control over those things. But you shouldn't let those thoughts prevent you from maybe making a good decision, right? You know, in terms of you have to see what they have in comparison to what you have. Anyway, I'll think about it. Hold on. Okay, so I think I've come to the conclusion that this year is a write-off for me due to theft. Okay? In terms of whatever budgeting I thought I was going to do, sure in the heck didn't happen. Okay. Now, I'm going to give myself, I don't know, 6 months. Well, once I pay off my landlady that money, then I can get back on track in terms of what I thought I was going to start to do at the beginning of the year in terms of consolidating my bills, bringing them down, and, you know, just getting that right. Okay. Clearly that didn't happen. So what I'm trying to say is, I think, okay, I got too many thoughts in my head. That's what's going on here. Okay, I'm going to show leadership here. All right, I'm going to show leadership here. Now, there are no guarantees in life, Lady Jane. Okay? But just so that we're on the same page, I'm going to see if I can budget in $100 a month for the children. That gives you $100 a month to... I'd like you to connect with the grandma in the neighborhood that's helping to watch the 2 children when the little girl goes to school. And bring her online. And give her a voice. Okay? So we know who we're working with, okay? So that we can maybe build in a little support system for her as well, somehow, some way. Just even if it's just having a voice, where whatever she's got to say is being acknowledged with her trials and tribulations, okay? Because it's not easy looking after kids when you're old. It's just not, especially if you've got no resources, right? So, you know, we got to keep the grandmas in the loops here, okay? So, because I would suspect that if you had a budget to work with where you could depend on it, then, you know, you can move forward, right? At least a little bit, right? And it sounds like this grandma that you mentioned in the video of yours is a key component to help with the structure of the family unit with the 3 children, right? So I'm going to show leadership, and I'm going to try really hard to budget in $100 a month for basic food staples, right? Where I would like to think that you can, I know it's a long way for you to get to these children, but I don't know. Maybe you can work with the grandma and leave her a bit of money so that she can budget in and spread out the fresh vegetables or whatever, something. Help the little girl, right? You know, she can give the money to the little girl to go get the food and then come back and they can share it between themselves, right? Versus bringing it all at one time where maybe it's subject to theft, because I know that's on your mind, right? I know that, I know. And just maybe the jealousy that's breeding in the neighborhood because they don't understand what we're trying to do here, because they're running on their emotions within their own fears and their own, you know, sorrows, right? You know, sorrow and fear can make people do things that they necessarily wouldn't do if their lives were stable. And that's the point of the exercise. We want to bring in stability one house at a time so that the community itself can do that. But it's so hard to do that when everybody's on a mission to tear down everybody around them because they want to be on top first. Oh, okay. So, and by me budgeting in that $100 a month kind of inadvertently helps me to discipline myself to get back on track with what I need to do to stabilize my own house with my finances. Okay? Because as soon as funky shit happens, what do? I rebel and I go to cap my dopamines with food that I don't necessarily need at this point. Okay? I replaced what she took. And I'm like adamant. I don't want no more canned hams. And I don't want no more canned freaking sockeye salmon. Right? I just don't. Not now. Talk to me in a year and a half from now when I'm maybe halfway through with what I got. Then yeah, we'll talk about it then. But not right now. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, my dopamines are going crazy with just the attack, the ongoing attack that I get for being on this planet for 63 years and basically not being a fucking idiot. And people are jealous of me. Rhea was jealous of me to go off and do what she did. And she justified it thinking she had a right to do it because she was incapable of doing it for herself and didn't want to invest 10 years of her life into food prepping like I invested 10 years into my life to the degree of food prepping like I did in this house. And it took some bitch to come in here for 30 minutes, within 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes, to rob me completely freaking blind of $10,000 worth of shit. Because I'm telling you, by the time I'm done telling up this crap, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not going to be 10 grand worth of shit. If I can lose that and make compensations around that and get the monkeys off my back as I do it and still think about working on a budget at some point in the future, once I pay off my landlord so that I can bring an equilibrium into my house, whether I become homeless or not, you know, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, then I think I can budget in $100 a month just to, as program development to help stabilize this family with the assistance of the local grandma, right, who's helping, right? You know, the foster grandma. Right? She's like a foster parent, right? Help her. Get her involved. You know, she's wise, right? She's not a stupid woman. Obviously, she loves children if she's already helping. And what I want my viewers, the ones that like me, and just like me, right? For whatever reason. Bailey, right? We've got Tammy in there. Lucy kicks around once in a while. And we've got Shelly, right? A few others, not many, but a few. Just come along on this journey with us, right? It's a journey. We're on a journey. And, you know, put it in the back of your mind at some point in the future when you feel comfortable enough, because it's important that Lady Jane does the follow-up videos, just as it's important for me to do what I need to do. The only thing that would prevent me from doing it would be I'd either became really, really ill and, you know, where I couldn't manage anything in my life anymore. And my life was really overtaken by somebody else. And it didn't matter what I say, how I said it, or what I wanted. They wouldn't do what I asked them to do. So therefore, you know, they wouldn't send the money in that situation, or if I died. But we can't let those things stop us from moving forward, right? To make a difference. See, that's the thing. Don't let fear of something else happening stop you from trying to make that difference. So if we get 8 months into the game and then all of a sudden I'm dead and the money dries up, Lady Jane's going in with her eyes wide open, and at least she had 8 months to work on something, to build something, versus not even have the chance to start building. Not everything has to be built in a physical sense where you're taking a hammer and nail. There's other ways to build things, right? That's what we're trying to do here, okay? So, but I have to be the one to show the leadership here, because I'm the one that's working on the foundation. Right? I'm the one that's the community activist here. Yeah, okay. And so, you know, I have to show the leadership. So after a few months, right? 3, 2, 4, whatever, you know, I'm going to ask Tisha to contribute towards this, because she offered once before to help Mama Peter. So maybe she'll help with this family in a few months from now, right? We'll just give it some time to work itself out, right? It's just put some roots in. We're just planting the seeds and put a little bit of, you know, it's got to start to grow some roots, right? I am going to, you know, talk to the Africans over here. DJ James, he's pretty respectful towards me, right? And I think they're learning to trust me a little bit. I'm the only neighbor that goes and visits them and hangs out with them. Right? I don't go very often because, you know, I'm busy and stuff, but you know, I do outreach with them, and they're, you know, I mean, obviously you've seen that dude come and talk to me in the camera, so it's, you know, whatever. And I'm going to talk to DJ James. And like, if I ever get that stuff back, Rhea said she was going to bring me back my sewing machines, the winemaking kit that she was supposed to sell, that kind of stuff, right? You know, she hasn't brought them back because she's probably ashamed. She doesn't want the Africans to recognize who the fuck she is. That's what it is, people. Yeah, because she's, you know, she's some famous seamstress in the neighborhood who likes to sew outfits with stolen fabric. Yeah, okay, bitch. Like I said, this shit's gonna follow you if you're watching this video. And well, I don't know. I don't know how to get them involved. You know, like, if she brought back that stuff, I was just gonna take it next door. I already talked to James. Like, he said, yeah, he'll take it as a donation. And then maybe in a situation like that, I could say, well, you know, if somebody wants the winemaking kit and they offer you money, take the money and then, you know, send it to Lady Jane. Here's her channel, right? Send her an email and she'll give you, you know, the Western Union, whatever to do. And you send the money to her and just, she'll confirm it with me that she got the money because you sold the winemaking kit for $40 $40 can go a long way for this family, people. Right, but then, you know, eventually there's, you know, I can't give everything away. You see, that's the thing, right? Right? But some things I don't mind, but not, I have to try and sell some things around here. But it's hard to get people to participate in program development because everybody's got their problems. Everybody's got an excuse not to help. And sometimes, even if they want to help, they're afraid of the commitment that comes with it, in terms of once you start, people kind of expect you to keep giving because the need is always there. It never goes away. Or you give, and then something happens where you can't. And then because you can't, all of a sudden whatever you built just all went away to the wayside, and it was one big waste of time and money. And you got, nobody got anything out of it. Like what happened to, Mama Peter disappeared, right? Little Peter disappeared. So what happened to the roof? Well, is it benefiting the family? Well, apparently not. They're not in the house, right? What about the rugs and all that other shit that I bought for Mama Peter? Well, what happened to that stuff? Probably still sitting there. Who knows? But the way I think of it like this is, well, whoever moves into that house at least has a roof. So whatever you did for Mama Peter transcended down to the next person. Because if you wouldn't have done the roof, that thing would still be leaking. So, mission accomplished. Hopefully Mama Peter took her freaking pressure canner with her wherever she went. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully little Peter is with her, and wherever they are, I hope they have food. I'm serious, I do. But they're nowhere to be found at this point. So, we're going to focus on this family. And, am I trying to convince myself to make a $100 donation a month to bring in structure? Yes. Because I don't know if I want a $100 bill. Because that's what it becomes. It's just another bill where it's expected. Right? And then, with that comes like, get rid of the bill. I don't, if you can get rid of the bill, get rid of it. Because there's so many other bills that are more pressing. But you shouldn't see it like that, right? Don't see it as a bill. Because sooner or later your life is going to come to an end. And the things that you thought that were important, you're going to quickly find out that they're not that important. And when you start to go blind, those are some of the lessons that you start to learn earlier before you die. I told you I'm witnessing what people are like and what they will do when I die. But I only get to see it happen before I die. So once I die, I will already know as I'm dying what the fuck is going to happen because I've been going through it. Right? And when you start to look at your clothes and those kind of things, and you throw them all in a bag like a freaking hobo, and you're willing to let them go simply because they become insignificant in the great grand scheme of things, whatever that scheme is, right? And in this situation, for me, it's obviously food security, right? I don't care what my son says. Oh, I don't want food. I need money for a down payment for a house. That's all I want is money. Just give me money. Don't you have any money? No, actually, I don't. Well, can we put it on your credit cards? No, actually, we can't because I've been using my credit cards. Right? Just saying. I want to pay down my credit cards, but, I'm not in that position yet, right? I thought I was supposed to be at the 1st of January. It was supposed to be a new year. But unfortunately, that's not what's been happening, right? No names mentioned in terms of as to why and who and how it's not happening. So yeah, hell, I could probably sell 4 pieces, well, less than 4 pieces of clothing once I get my shit all organized. Even though it's been pillaged, even though I give some to Tisha, I'll still be able to sell some clothes, right? 2 pieces, 1 piece, freaking 5 pieces of clothing, there's that $100. No sweat off of my back, right? Those things just sat in my room for 14 years while I lived in a fucking yard to be treated like a slave. Like, come on, people. And what did it get me? Nothing in the end. It's getting me homeless. It's making me go homeless. It's making it where people can rob me, right? It's making it where I have nothing. So, this is where you have to, open your eyes and realize that whatever you think you got at the end of the day, I don't know. It's going to disappear. Sooner or later, it's going to disappear. And even if it doesn't disappear, it's not going to mean as much as you think it does. Where something like this, what we're doing here, what I'm doing, I don't know. The only thing that prevents me from trying to follow through on it is obviously one, the commitment, right? Because it's another bill, but you shouldn't see it as a bill, so we'll have to work on that, okay? In terms of put it in perspective. And the fact that I'm helping to build up a family where if I die or become, you know, convalescent, you know, completely disabled where I can't do shit, right? And then the money dries up for Lady Jane. I mean, that could be a very devastating situation for the family. And this is why I would like my YouTube girlfriends to put it in the back of their mind where maybe they could budget in $25 a month, $50 a month, $100 a month to build onto program development for this part of the world. This region is a region within Uganda, not far from Kampala, where children can have a future. Because really, that's all it's about. Yeah, that's all it's about. Because if I die, I don't know what's going to happen to the kids. So, I will talk to DJ James over the next several months about this situation and see if there's any way he can help. But that's hard though, because they all have their own problems. Many of them come from different countries, like different parts of Africa, right? And they're obligated to look after their families in their country of origin or whatever, so it's not like they have a lot to give. Plus the cost of living is very expensive in Canada, and most of these people that, you know, most of us in general are below the medium income level, if not at the border of being poverty and, you know, the working poor. So when you're dealing with those below the poverty level and those who are the working poor, and you ask them to help, what do you get? $1 back. You can't do much with just $1. So, but gotta just stay positive and not worry about it. My federal trademark name is coming up in June. I don't know how much it's going to cost to renew it. Last time I was told it's like $1,000, but that was years and years ago. So it could be up to $2,000 to renew the federal trademark name for another 15 more years, and I just don't know if it's even worth it. For everything that's going on with the foundation, with board directors stealing this and board directors stealing that, with nobody really helping me with anything, I am thinking to go and get those 2 free pieces of Kentucky Fried Chicken and go hang out with that church group. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with Pastor Granny, and if it is, I'm going to let them know that we miss Pastor Granny, and that, you know, somehow, some way, for whatever reason, I'm here, and I'm going to ask them to see if maybe they can help me with the foundation, become a board director to it, take over just whatever, and just do what needs to be done with it, because I'm not capable of doing it for myself. And what Rio was supposed to do, obviously, isn't going to happen. So I got to deal with that. So with that said, I don't know if I'm going to renew the federal trademark name. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. You know, I gave it my best 27 years. And if the best, all I can do is send $100 once a month or once every 2 months or whatever it is that I end up doing here, because there is no promises, because something drastic could happen next month and I could be like in complete dire straits and I couldn't send her a dime. So, you know, she needs to go in with this with eyes wide open. But if I'm in a position where I budget in $100 a month as I continue to get these monkeys off my back so that I can bring in the budget, household budget that I wanted for myself after the fact of getting rid of these monkeys on my back, then, you know, if it helps children and opens up a doorway for program development in the future where other people are willing to take the same kind of chance that I'm taking, and that's why I'm being vocal and verbal about it, because I'm trying to help you to work through your feelings in terms of ask yourself why you wouldn't do it. It's not that you can't do it, it's why you wouldn't do it. Because, you know, $25, $50, 4 women, $25 each, come on, that can go a long way for a situation that we're going to be, you know, that with this situation that we're talking about here. Right? Just as fast as Rhea stole my tools, I'm buying tools. Just saying. Am I going into debt for it? Yeah. But isn't that what gamblers do? Yeah. Do I expect to win the lottery? Well, even if I did, I know I'd be robbed. So who cares if I win the lottery? I've come to that conclusion after all these years with people robbing me of my mother's inheritance. You know what I'm saying? All kinds of crazy shit going on. My Uncle John got medically kidnapped. He got robbed of his inheritance, right? The fucking landlords are doing whatever they're, Rhea doing whatever, my son doing, like, come on, people. Welfare cut me off of welfare illegally in 2003. That was a form of robbery. Right? That was illegal what they did. They put me into poverty. They forced me to live off of fucking credit cards, for crying out loud, with 5 dependent kids, right? Like, come on. And a blind man to boot. Uncle John knew what he was doing. When he was hanging out with me, who went into debt? I did. Who got stuck with the bills when they took them? I did. That's a form of freaking robbery. Right? So when you're gambling, even if you win, it gets to the point where, and then to go blind and you start to see things differently. Right. Okay, so I'm going to leave this video. I'm going to upload it. It's long. It felt like I've only been talking for 45 minutes, but probably an hour and a half. Do you see? So for when that bitch says, oh, well, I was only gone for 10 minutes. No, you weren't. No, you weren't. 20 minutes to a half an hour. And I was in La La Land sitting in here waiting for you. Halfway through it, I went to the bathroom. And you weren't there. I should have looked in my room, but I didn't, because I gave you the benefit of the doubt. Little did I know that there are people like you that mooch up to people for 9 years just so that you can rob them blind. But now I know. So I will be very careful who I invite into my house, and I never, ever will ever befriend another friend of Tisha's outside of who she already has as friends. In terms of, I'm Mama Lynn to Paige, I'm Mama Lynn to Anissa, right? Because that's how they know me when I used to do park events and that kind of shit. But anybody new coming in on the block, no. That's okay. I'll see you on the outside. I ain't babysitting your kids. I'm not doing nothing. I'm too old for that crap. I'll look after my grandkids. That's all I'm going to do. And I will do community activism where I can. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing a form of community activism. And I want you guys, the ones that care, to dig deep into your heart and to start opening it up to think about you doing more community activism. And if you can help with this situation that I'm talking about, well, that would be great, because there is going to come a day when I'm going to die and there won't be nobody there to pick up the slack. At least if I know there's a couple of people in towing that line with me. We couldn't tow the line with Shimei. right? Toe that line. When I was doing the court, well, maybe here you could help toe the line a little bit. I understand I understand that you don't trust the process, right? In light of the situation and just whatever, and distance and just blah, right? And I don't expect you to trust the process because I'm still learning to trust the process. And I'm sure Lady Jane herself is learning to trust the process. And especially those children. You see, that's the thing. The children are afraid to trust the process. And that's another reason why I'm reluctant to make that commitment. Because what if I can't keep up $100 a month to make sure that they have food, enough food for the family? So that would be the 3 children with the grandma, okay? Because the grandma will be helping to keep. She's a foster grandma, right? Helping to keep an eye on the 2 younger ones when the other oldest one is going to school, right? So, they're afraid to trust the process. What happened to Mama Lynn? Why didn't she make sure we had food this month? Well, I don't know. Mama Lynn just didn't send it. It's not good, right? Especially for children. You don't play with them like that, right? That's just not right. Taking candy from children. Only in this situation is taking food from children, because they will learn to depend on it, and it's not their fault. You see, that's the thing. It's not their fault. They don't expect it, right? They're not ungrateful for it, but they will learn to depend on it, unfortunately. So that's where the fear comes in, to prevent you from making that donation, because maybe you don't want to hurt their feelings because one month you can't do it. But if you budget in $25 a month, $50 a month, or whatever, and there's a couple of 2, 3, 4 of us that do it, right? Or even every second month or something just to build in, just stability. Start with the one house. And then if one of us fall, there's still slack to pick it up, so it doesn't all come crashing down on the kids. And their lives get completely ruined. Because it's already on the verge of being ruined. Those children do not have a future, people. Not at the rate things are going, okay? And that's sad. Considering, for the ones that are watching this video, all you have to do is look around, see what you got in your house, and then ask yourself, if you were going blind, how much of it would become important to you compared to what you think is important to you now. If you notice, I haven't been crying about all this theft. Oh, I've been hollering and screaming, getting mad and cussing. But have you seen me cry yet? No. Lots of people would be crying by now. Yeah.